Peace world, what's good? My name is Wood. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. Definitely got to get into some bite down boxing commentary. The schedule continues to be weird right now. So as things do, as information does come out there, there's a chance to speak on some things. So I got a couple, maybe four or five. A little bit of Deontay Wilder talk. The Fury glove gate. Tyson Fury glove controversy. Ishe Smith versus the LDBC. Maybe some thoughts on that, and a couple of announcements, and then heavyweight boxing, and its huge resurgence at the moment. Michael Hunter, and Charles Martin. So let me jump into this a little bit. One great development is that boxing is, and this is on boxerscene.com, boxing is slated to resume operations in Japan. I mentioned this last week as places like China and Japan work through the coronavirus situation or the outbreak. Some of these different countries who've already flattened the curve, as they get back to business, these fights are supposed to be airing on YouTube and happening as early as April 5th, which is later this week. So that's kind of crazy. My thinking is, what kind of concerns are there for, and if this is just Japanese fighters, domestic fighters, nobody coming in from overseas and whatnot, I guess there's no concerns, from the health authorities and whatnot in the federal government over there. But So I think that's awesome news for those of us that want to see boxing, and it's a chance to get to further familiarize ourselves with some of the talent over in Japan, which has a pretty interesting boxing industry or field of talent. So that's a dope development. How does this relate to other regions as we all continue to work ourselves through a resolution concerning, COVID-19? Another thing that I saw out there, and that's also crazy because the Olympics, has finally been pushed back. I'm seeing now that could be scheduled for July 23rd through August 8th of 2021. So, that's that. One other thing that I wanted to put out there, so the Michael Hunter situation, he's come out and said that he wants to face Charles Martin in a final eliminator. I guess this all kind of meshes together for me with where I was going with the Ishe Smith versus the LDBC, and then Joey Spencer, and we can shoehorn all of this together, as well as Devin Haney. So I wanted to say, I was really starting to think that Michael Hunter could be a guy that me personally, I thought he was a guy that might have had a chance to pose some problems to Deontay Wilder. Now, obviously, I see the outcome of the Alexander Povetkin fight, and I'm like, man, I might have been way wrong on that one. But I still thought that Hunter brought some things to the table that I saw a way for him to, like I said, to challenge Deontay Wilder. Mainly his mobility, his agility, and kind of, his ability or penchant to move inside and box a little bit. But then, like I said, you get tripped up against Povetkin, and maybe I didn't see that so well. So anyway, there's already fights in line out there. so who knows if that happens? But what I was getting to was kind of going into the Ishe Smith situation versus the LDBC. Because I sit here and I want to say that Hunter, I saw a formula or a path for Hunter to beat Wilder or challenge Wilder. Do I attract some negative attention because I feel that way, because I have that belief? And that's kind of where we are with this social media thing, YouTube, boxing. You know, somebody comes out with an opinion and it's an affront to the fan base of the other fighter. Whereas for me, I'm just looking for interesting developments in boxing. I'm looking for compelling boxing to watch. I don't look at Deontay Wilder boxing or Errol Spence Jr. boxing or Top Rank or PBC boxing. I don't follow it that way. I'm just out here looking for the next biggest story, the next interesting thing to happen in the sport. And sometimes seeing if I can see it before it actually happens. In the rare cases that happens. But here it is for this situation with Ishe Smith and the LDBC. And because he comes out and has his own thoughts on the whole Glovegate controversy, he becomes like public enemy number one to the LDBC. And all of this back and forth ensues. And, we get into the question of this black versus black, all of these insults and slurs, and labels for Ishe Smith. And that just gets completely blown out of proportion, in my opinion. Then we get into media and new media. And I'm sorry, but a lot of us, new media, what is that? I don't really understand. Like some people, a lot of this, in short, a lot of this stuff is just forums where you would normally write on a forum and post and create new threads on a forum. Back in the MySpace era and earlier times, and even a large part of what I see on boxingscene.com, a lot of YouTube channels have simply become digital form of forums. It's not really reporting new news or reporting the news. It's just opinion versus opinion. What's the standards of any of this stuff? What is the purpose of your of a channel, of any given channel? So it seems like we getting bogged down in a lot of questionable behavior, a lot of foolishness, and at the end of the day, I guess I guess we all just can do what we want to do because you can have these platforms. And right now it's kind of funny because in COVID-19 season and during this shutdown, a lot of the mainstream media and the older forms of media, it's funny because they have to resort to what us YouTubers are doing right now. But anyway, man, I just thought that was unfortunate that confrontation had to happen and blow up, and that Ishe Smith chose to take it so seriously and feel the need to go on this mission to strike out at this group. And I'll just say for me personally, man, I don't really have any opinion one way or the other on the LDBC. I think for me, when I was a year and a half or something into writing about boxing online and doing the thing that I do before I even found out who they were or what it was. And I think one of the things that something that opened up my eyes very early in how I would interact with the LDBC was what I feel were blatant or intentional mischaracterizations of Terrence Crawford and his legal situation that came out with Chris Middendorf, I think was the name, and that lawsuit that came out in favor of Middendorf versus against Top Rank, and I think Top Rank owed like a million, 1.2 or 1.5 or something. Was rewarded to Chris Middendorf and a couple of key individuals in the LDBC ran out with these stories, and what they put out there did not match up to what I read in the court findings. And from that point on, it became very skeptical. The information put out there became very skeptical for me. You know, if someone could read what I read and present it the way that it was presented, that just didn't line up. And you didn't have to be a lawyer to see that. So from that point, and then it's been other things. It's been, the zone statements or, versus pay-per-view and whatnot. It's just been different things that for me, I just was like, okay, well, they're here. They're out here and I'm out here and others out here and we just all move forward how we move forward. But anyway, so now Devin Haney comes out and he says, according to an article that's out there, he doesn't really buy into the whole glove controversy with that being a factor or with it being true. And again here, not to say that this was all LDBC, but some of the conspiracy videos that were out there, I've heard my share of comments of look at the gloves, look at the footage, blah, blah, blah. And, just because you get a confirmation, just because one of them gets a confirmation of what they see going on with the gloves and what they feel happened and how to, and not factor in that the fact that they're upset with how the fight played out factors into whether or not you run along with this without any questioning. Well, I'm sorry if I'm not even sorry. That's just, it is what it is. I like my information presented in a certain manner, and just because somebody is passionate about what they're talking about, and just because it's dwelled on for weeks, for a month or more, that doesn't make the information any more true or more valid for me personally. I still, like I said in another video, you got to show me a timeline. Like, you can't just show me 5 seconds of footage and that's the whole story. Like, I need to know you got to give some context to that. So, and then how could I sit here and ignore the fact that we're talking about 5-7 seconds of footage from a video that's 14 months old? And there was no problem, there was no issue with it prior to February 22nd. And now all of a sudden, all of these strong arguments are being made about something that's 14 months old. Well, how is that really relevant to this right here? So without rehashing all of that, Joey Spencer came out last week and said that the practice of putting the hands down in the gloves in a different manner is something that's coached and trained in Detroit, in the gyms in Detroit. And he was a victim of that. I find that somewhat interesting. And I also give him more credit because of the fact that he's from that area and said it as, in the amateurs and in training around the city and whatnot, that he encountered some things. And so there is more credibility there. His input carries some weight. But again, then he came out, I thought he said that he didn't think that was the total, you couldn't attribute everything in the rematch to that. But Devin Haney comes out and says his thing. Now I'm wondering, does he put a target on his back from LDBC fan, the LDBC, or black boxing fans who really rocked real heavy with Deontay Wilder? I was trying to find the article from looking at it earlier. For me, yeah, Devin Haney not buying Tyson Fury glove rumors. for me, like I said, I looked at it from a certain way and the mechanics of throwing a punch and just kind of a risk, a risk reward situation. Like to be able to hit with the bare knuckles, but to not really be able to throw a regular punch. And would you encounter some injuries in doing that? I don't know, man. It's a lot. It's a lot to look at that versus just running wild with this theory that with this theory. And then also, you'll never convince me that doing that alone would like get you to win would help you win the fight. Or that you really can't convince me that that was the difference in the second fight. And then furthermore, if he did it in the first fight, well, it didn't create a victory. It didn't produce a victory. It was a draw. And then it got him knocked down twice in doing it. So again, man, at this point, I would assume that everybody is where they are with that topic. And Devin Haney coming in here, over a month later. Nearly a month and a week. A month and a week later. It just gives you. It gives those of us weighing in on it. It either reaffirms, what you thought. Some of the stuff that he said. I don't even. Quoting here, he says, "I don't know. That stuff is crazy. I feel like if Tyson Fury did everything right and didn't cheat, then let him enjoy his win." That's a question. Did he do everything right? He goes on, "Don't discredit him or anything like that. I don't know the situation. I seen the glove situation. I don't know if it's real or fake. The internet can make up anything these days, so I'm not sure. I don't think it's cool to be putting out rumors. Everyone sees it in fast motion. Nobody really sees it in slow motion, so you don't really see how the glove really reacts. I think now that we are paying attention to it, other people's glove may do the same thing. We never know." Ultimately, that's it. We may never know. All we can see is the trilogy in October and what happens then. And at that point, I would expect Wilder's team, if they believed any of this, I would feel that they would do everything in their power to make sure their man is fighting on a level playing field. And you bring this stuff up to the commission and the referee ahead of time, and then you remind the referee during the fight if necessary, if anything looks suspicious. One individual told me that they didn't tap gloves before neither of the fights. And last week I watched the fight and I saw them touch gloves both times. And I saw Reese holding Tyson Fury's left hand during the final instructions. His left, maybe his left wrist. And then they touch gloves. So that's what I'm saying. When you start saying things and the evidence and the details don't really line up, then it's very hard for me to ignore the fact that you might have some issues with how you scrutinize information. So like I said, man, I feel kind of sorry that the situation had to explode between Ishe Smith, because I just think there's nothing conclusive in this whole situation. So why would you go so far as to really make it personal with another individual just because they hold on to a different set of beliefs on the same matter? But again, for some of these people to ignore the whole battery was put in your back because you can't believe that your fighter lost. So maybe you're a little more susceptible to believing whatever that supports why your guy lost. But that's neither here nor there. Was there one more thing to get to before I get on out of here? Damn, I didn't write none of the timestamp information down once I got to rambling. Man, my heart goes out to Anthony Yard, the loss to his father to coronavirus. Shout out to that brother and his family. that's about it, man. That's more than enough, for one sitting, I guess. But anyway, let me get on off of here, man. Bite down boxing. Don't let them count you out. The Japan boxing situation sounds promising, but I think here in the States we're well off from any from seeing any action. I think well off. But anyway, man, my name is Wood. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'm out. One.